Welcome to Bet on an NFL Week 7. All right, guys, wonderful weekend with the exception of Monday night. I'm going to bring in Marco D'Angelo and Gianni the Greek. Guys, how was your weekend? I'll start with you, Marco. I know that you got a little bit of flack for the Jets. We addressed that a little bit on Monday night, but overall, a very good weekend.
Yeah, it was a very good weekend. We had a good show report. Other than Monday night, yes, the Monday wasn't fun, but that's what it's about, guys. You know, we're here to grind out the winners, have the winning week, and we had a big week with our 5% plays. We hit one on Saturday, which was the baseball play. Come back on Sunday with a big 5% play on Tampa Bay. Actually, it was a Tampa Bay weekend for me. Tampa was the baseball play as well. So I'm looking forward to it. We got a couple more college conferences joining the scene this weekend. So hopefully we'll get through college football. College this year, Kelly, I know we talked about it before we went on air, with not doing the full show for college football this year. Right now, we're just doing the best bet segment, but it's a strange year in college football. I'm having a winning year in college football, but man, it is tough. Not only are you trying to handicap games, Kelly, but you're watching COVID reports and, in a couple times, you get information that doesn't break till, Saturday. The game's not canceled, but we find out that 5 or 6 people aren't playing and there's nothing you can do about it. It's too late. You already got a play locked, and as soon as word breaks, the line changes, and it's never going to change in your favor, that's for sure. And you're sitting with a ticket sometimes that you just, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, VR's best bet got postponed last week in Tulsa, and I was right in the line with him. And one of our colleagues, Dave Koken, is kind enough. We share our plays with one another. I think Dave's had the most postponed plays I've seen all year. I'll get an email from him on a Monday or Tuesday. By Wednesday, it's like, never mind. We got another postponement. VR, how was your weekend? And where's your Khabib hat?
Yeah, the Khabib hat's on the side till Saturday. Now, I've been doing okay in college football. I'm crushing. It's been a crazy year, like Marco said, but for some reason, we're doing very well in college football. NFL, I need to pick it up. I was profitable, I think, up until last week. I'm not sure I'm profitable for 2020 going into week 7. You know me, I'll tell you when I win, I tell you when I lose. Fortunately, I'm profitable overall for 2020 and trying to make it, 5, 6, 7 straight years, what have you. But I got to pick it up in the NFL. The truth is the truth. And it's a tough year, man. I mean, no fans, having to factor in what home field advantage is worth, what it's not worth, injuries. Again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it's more to navigate. And I don't think my confidence, it's high. I feel my confidence is high. I feel it shouldn't be as high as it is. That's the problem. Meaning I need to slow down a little bit and realize what's going on and soak it all in. It's a much different year. And sometimes it's okay to be a little cautious and not always dive in full speed ahead,
VR, let's talk about that a little bit. Before we went on air, you have kind of a different perspective than Marco and I. You have the advantage of seeing several back ends to different betting sites and seeing kind of what people are doing. And so before we started the show, I really wanted you to give an education lesson. Sorry for those that are bored by this, just click the fast forward button. But I do think it's really important, and part of what we need to do here on the show is to educate our listeners, because we've all made stupid mistakes in the past and we've all had to learn from them, myself especially. And once you kind of learn those mistakes, you can become a sharper bettor, you lose less money, and you really start to figure things out. So can you kind of explain to our listeners what happened on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Monday night was a perfect example of the difference between placing a bet and having a pick. We talked about it on the show. We picked Buffalo. When it came down to betting, I didn't bet Buffalo. I didn't feel the confirmation was there, that I had an edge. Sure, I predicted Buffalo will cover. I thought they were going to cover. But I didn't feel that plus 5.5, if I lay minus 110, that I have any kind of edge. So ultimately, I would just be gambling. I would be flipping a coin and laying 11 to 10 on it. And unfortunately, that's what most bettors do, because being able to look in the back end, I see bettors placing wagers that puts you in a position where you're a mathematical certainty to go broke. And what I mean by that is the average bet is, $50, not even that. if you talk to most offshore books. So most people aren't betting as a way to make a livelihood. They're betting to make a little bit of money or for entertainment. I get it. If you're willing to piss that money away, then do it. But if you're actually looking to protect that money, then you got to focus on placing good bets. And buying points when it doesn't justify it isn't a good bet. I watched a $50 bettor actually take the Dallas Cowboys to +0.5, and he laid -140 for that privilege. And then he took it up to +1 and laid -150. So he was willing to lay, he or she, 150 instead of 110 so that he could get Dallas at +1 instead of -1. So in other words, Dallas -1, he wasn't willing to lay -110 because there was no value there. But for some reason, Dallas +1 had value at -150. That just makes, there is zero reason to place a bet like that. Like if you just take a step back and put it in that perspective, that is there value at -1, -110? No, of course not. Okay, then how could there be value at +1, -150? Is that the edge you're looking for? A quarter of a point, that kind of advantage, and you're willing to lay 150 for it? You can't win like that. Guys, I can't stress this enough. The reason the books have made money every single month except one over the last 6-7 years, and that was the COVID month, is because it's so hard to lay 11 to win 10. Even guys that win long term, guys like myself, our edge is this small. We may hit 60% over 10 bets, 20 bets, 30 bets, but over 1,000 bets, the very best of us are going to go 550, 450, 530, 470. Have a small edge. That's about it. Keep repeating that process. But when you start buying points, doing teasers that aren't in positive EV, putting in parlays that aren't correlated, those are all negative EV bets. If you place negative EV bets, you're going to go broke. That's the bottom line. That's why I keep saying, don't keep stressing on the outcome. Focus on placing good bets. When you do that enough times, sports betting will become a lot easier for you. So now whoever fast forwarded could press play again. We'll talk games.
Thank you, VR. Though, no, all jokes aside, I do really think it is important, and I do think somehow we are responsible for educating the general public.
Yeah.
Look, we're one of the most watched shows on YouTube for sports bettors. So that is something that I think is very important. I have made so many mistakes in my life and learned so much from you guys. I think it's very important that we share. All right, Marco, you are up. Thursday night primetime game, the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles now a 4.5-point favorite. This total has been bet up from 43.5 now to 45. Talk to me about the dumpster fire that is the NFC East on Thursday night.
Yeah, no, we gotta, the only good thing about having this game on Thursday night, Kelly, is we get two of the crappiest teams out of the way right away. So we only have two more of them left for the week. You look at it, it is the NFC least, not the East. And Philadelphia, I still think they win the division. I said it in our preseason show, and I'll stick with that I think they're going to be the team that gets there, but it'll be by default. I didn't think this division was going to be as bad as it is. Now, for this particular game, we've got the Giants coming in here. You're looking at really, not that big of a number. A lot of people are going to want to take the Eagles here because the Giants finally got into the win column and they had to hold their breath to do it. And it took, a failed 2-point conversion to preserve it. But, thanks, Riverboat Ron, I was all for him going for the 2-point conversion, me sitting there holding a +3 ticket and a teaser. But, Kelly, the Giants, the fact is, only one win, but they've been competitive. They've been in every one of their games except one. The one game that they got blown out in was the San Francisco 49er game, which ironically, that is Philadelphia's their big win was against San Francisco. So a lot of people will use that game as a comparison and have them landing on Philadelphia. But I'm going to point a couple things out. The Giants, have been beasts on the road getting points. They're 15-4 against the spread over the last 3 seasons on the road. And when they've played on the road and it's been a grass field like we're going to have in Philadelphia, they're a perfect 10-0, Kelly, against the spread. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the New York Giants to keep this game close. I think this one comes down to the end, and I'm going to call for, maybe a little sprinkle there. Go ahead and take the Giants plus the points. We always talk about Thursday night. Road team has a disadvantage. It's a Thursday night division game. That disadvantage is lessened because you play the team twice a year, so preparation is easier. And as far as travel goes, could you have a shorter travel game than traveling from Philly to New York? So no problems there. We're going to take the New York Giants plus the points.
Marco, I'm with you. We've spoken about several times that I love those road divisional underdogs. All right, VR, you are next. My question for you is, did this number get steamed from 34.5 to 45? Is this just people trying to get out ahead of the market?
So glad you asked, Kelly. There's 2 kind of betting syndicates out there. There's the kind that has unlimited bankroll and a ton of investors and movers, and they simply look for any kind of edge and they're willing to bet it. Meaning if they find someone that's willing to give a position that gives them plus 102 on a coin flip, they're going to bet it and move on to the next one. They don't care about the size of the edge. As long as they have a little bit of EV, they're going to put their money on it, and they have the bankroll to be able to survive those big swings where they could lose 3-4 weeks in a row. Because again, when you're doing volume and you're firing 30-40 plays on a Saturday or Sunday, you're going to have some horrific weekends, and you have to have the bankroll to overcome it. Then there's other groups that sit back and they look for the biggest edges, and they're more information driven instead of just qualitative information. And they take bigger positions. They tend to come in later. They tend to hide their stuff more. I like those groups more, to be honest with you. But it's the first group, the latter, that you get the ton of information from. And they're the guys that actually set the market for the rest of us. And the perfect example of that is, here's what I mean. Here's the college football sheet so far for that first group. It looks like this. This is how many bets they've already placed. And this was through yesterday. I haven't even done today's stuff yet. This is the second ones. This is the group that just waits to do some positions later. Big difference. Now, the group that looks for small edges, they got down on the Giants right away. That's why this is sharp money. They are legit. They took the 6 on the New York Giants, and that's why we're looking at 4.5. I still think there's some value on the Eagles. I don't think they extracted all the value here. Now, at 6, it was a lot better, and I wish I got it. I would have bet it and actually would have shared it with subscribers, but I didn't have that opportunity. Because if you look, Eagles have owned this series. They've won 9 of the last 10 straight up, even though it's 5-5 ATS. But if you take that 6 points, and I always say the spread's the great equalizer, the Giants would actually be, I think, 7-3 over the last 10 if they were getting 6 points in all those games. So they tend to play the Eagles tight. And I think right now, on paper, the Eagles may appear to be the better team. But from what we've seen on the field, Giants have been better. Meaning analytics-wise, offensive DVOA, sure, Eagles are a little bit better. They're 28th. Giants are 32nd. Defensively, the Giants are a little better. Special teams, the Giants are a lot better. So I don't see much advantages that the Eagles have over this Giants team. I think it's a coin flip kind of game. Probably should be a spread of 2.5, 3. Getting 4.5, I like the Giants. I haven't bet it yet. I was hoping, maybe it goes up a little bit. But I think that's the right side. I don't see any reason to play the Eagles. That much I do know.
All right, Vera, I'm going to stick with you. We're going to go to the Sunday night primetime game. Tampa Bay, a 3-point favorite on the road at Las Vegas. Total 53, some 53.5s out there. Lots of people hoping for that over between these two offenses. Tampa Bay got it done for me on Sunday. I am so happy with this team. I'm not ready to quite step in front of them yet, but we do know that Sunday night primetime home dogs do a lot better than Monday night.
Yeah, Tampa came through for all of us last week, and they did it. I mean, they looked great doing it. It's hard to fade them in this spot. But again, now you got the Raiders at home, who themselves are coming off a huge a win against Kansas City. They've had 10, 11 days to get over it. And now here come, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady at home. This would have been a great game if you had fans, if fans were allowed. Could you imagine what Vegas would be like? Right now, I haven't bet this game. I think there's some value on the under. You touched on it at the setup. It looks like offensive set. This is going to be an offensive type of game. Raiders aren't that defensive-minded type of team. Not going to get it done on the defensive side of the football where they're 31st in DVOA, but they're 6th in offensive DVOA. But that tends to become the perfect storm for lower scoring games, believe it or not, because you get an inflated total coupled with two teams that really don't want to see the other team's offense on the field. You kind of want to eat a little bit clock. You don't really want to get in a shootout with the opponent. So I think at least one of these teams is going to try to slow it down. I don't think the game plan is going to be come out, press the gas all the way down and see who's holding the ball last. I just don't see this game playing out like that. Nothing we've seen from Tampa Bay makes me think they're that kind of team. They're not putting up 45, 50 points and not playing defense. Other than that game against the Chargers, nobody scored, and the first game against the Saints, excuse me. But they've held teams to 10 and 20 points. Again, I think the under has some value. Disclaimer, I haven't bet the Sunday night game or the Thursday yet, but those are my picks so far.
All right, Marco, the mayor of Tampa Bay after last weekend, are you stepping in front of the Bucs on Sunday night against the Raiders?
Well, Kelly, I'm going to tell you what I'm looking at in this game, and I'm also going to explain something that I do handicapping-wise. And if this is going to sound stupid, I'm going to open a statement with, if this game wasn't a standalone Sunday night game, I would be on the Raiders even stronger. Okay. Right now I have a weak vote to the Raiders. Now you're going to say, Marco, what are you talking about? What does it matter that it's a Sunday night game? Well, guys, I treat all of the Thursday, Sunday, Monday standalone games. You're the national spotlight game. I handicap those games differently. I'm a situational handicapper. And, if everybody, and I say it all the time, if all we look at when we handicap is stats, we're all going to have the same plays, okay? The bookmakers have the same stats we use. You have the same stats, Kelly. Gianni has the same stats. It's just, unless you can't read the stats, we would all be on the same place, okay? And if the bookmakers do their job right, every game would end in a push. That's why they put half a points on the games, okay? So you have to find those other things, the intangibles. And to me, intangibles are things like, who did you play last? Who do you play next? Is this a big game? Is it a TV game? Now, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is a tremendous flat spot. They came off their signature game last week against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers were undefeated. You had Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the game right now. Well, Tom Brady would have something to say about that, and he did on Sunday. He outplayed Aaron Rodgers. It didn't start out that way, but it sure turned that way. The Tampa Bay defense, after falling behind 10-0, it was the defense that saved that game. With the pick six, totally changed the complexion of that game, and then they just steamrolled from there on. Now, after the perfect game, and believe me, from the 10-0 point of that game to the end, Tampa Bay played as perfect of a game as you could play. How do they possibly have that same intensity now traveling to play the Raiders after the Green Bay game? Well, how they can do that is this is a TV game. And we know Tom Brady loves the spotlight. So that flat spot that I normally would jump all over gets negated because this is on TV. And that's why I am not pounding the Raiders. I still lean to the Raiders because I do think this is a bad spot for Tampa Bay. The Raiders need to stop the run. That has been their Achilles heel this year. And, the first 3 games of the season, it wasn't good. Or you go back 3 games ago, New England ran for 250 yards against them. Then somehow in the last two games, they held Buffalo to 62 yards rushing and Kansas City to just 80 yards rushing. If they can control the running game, they can stay in this game. Weak vote for me. I don't know that I'll actually get to the window come Sunday, but I lean to the Raiders, and I'm calling it 24-23. And, man, just like A said, I wish there were fans there, and I wish I was one of them on Sunday.
Not sure if we're going to get the hook, but if I get 3.5 in the hook, we already know what side I'm going to be on. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, we're going to go inside those numbers with the Westgate look-ahead lines. Only $99 for the gold sheet for the rest of the season? That's right. The Big Ten, Pac-12, and MAC are just getting started. The college football season is going deep into December. We'd like to offer you the rest of the 2020 college football season for only $99. That's right. You get expert analysis, power ratings, stats, and more for both college football and NFL. This $99 special also includes all of the college football bowl games and takes you through the Super Bowl. Just go to www.goldsheet.com/wager talk and use the code CFB is back. Add on the Gold Sheet Extra and CKO for the best bang for your buck.
Every Monday at wagertalk.com, all plays are just $9. This even includes top-rated 5% plays, which normally sell for $40. There's no better day to get winning picks than $9 Mondays at wagertalk.com and our sister site, sportsmemo.com.
All right, guys, as you know, our friends over at the Westgate put out what we call a 12-day number, a.k.a. the look-ahead lines. We're going to see what happened last week that involves the spread moving a significant amount. We're going to talk about if these lines are justified or not. VR, I'm going to start with you. The Dallas Cowboys stunk it up on Monday night. The Washington Redskins went for 2 and didn't get the W, but they did get the late cover for most of us, some of us a push. Dallas opened a 3.5-point favorite, now down to pick 'em. Is this justified?
100% justified. Everyone that's about to bet on NFL Week 7, watch Dallas look horrific on Monday Night Football. The only good thing for Dallas is that they're in a division where they have a reason to continue playing. Otherwise, this is probably a team you should continue to look to fade because, you got some veterans not going to the playoffs, COVID year. They probably give up, but because of the NFC East, that may not be the case. But I do think it's warranted. Dallas hasn't covered a single game all year. They haven't won on the road yet all year. What reason do they have to be favored over anyone there? So I think it's warranted. I don't know if I bet Washington, but I think the line move makes sense.
Okay, Marco, our arch nemesis, the Atlanta Falcons, were a 1-point favorite against the Detroit Lions, now up to 2.5. Detroit didn't look so bad last week. I was shocked. I said, who wants to lay points with Detroit on the road? And they shut me up. Our good friend Bobby the Bookie was there in Jacksonville for that one. And like I said, I thought it was really shocking to see this line move.
Yeah, quick shout out to our buddy Bobby the Bookie. When I grow up, I want to be Bobby the Bookie and just, fly around, go to strip clubs, go to, nice golf courses, attend games. But instead, I'm here working. So, keep enjoying yourself, Bobby. Kudos to you. You look at this one, Kelly, and yeah, both teams are coming off wins. And yeah, Detroit's was against Jacksonville. So what? But let's not get carried away about Atlanta's win in Minnesota. Yeah, it was on the road, and it was the Vikings. The Vikings have been a train wreck this year. And what did we find out? Well, we get no Delvin Cook. You remember I texted you Sunday morning saying I hate this play on Minnesota, but I'm stuck with it. And beating the Vikings without Delvin Cook is not anything to write home about. That means you have to rely on Kirk Cousins, and we know how that ends up. So this is unwarranted, not justified at all. I think there's value with Detroit, and when we get to another segment, you're going to find out where I think that value is with the Detroit Lions.
All right, VR, the Carolina Panthers, 3 straight underdog wins for this team at the New Orleans Saints off a bye. Looks like the mayor of New Orleans didn't want this game to be moved, so she's going to allow 3,500 fans to be there. This one opened at 6.5, and now over the key number of 7 to 7.5. Yeah,
that's huge, and I don't really understand it because Carolina's played the Saints pretty tight, meaning other than, two, maybe 3 times over the last 10 have they gotten blown out. I mean, they've played them in some very close games, even times where they were big dogs. They showed up against the Saints. Now, if this was between 2000 and 2010, 11, I'd say automatically, let's just blindly bet the Saints and see what happens. But the market corrected itself. And what I mean by that is in between 2001, 2011, all you had to do is bet teams off the bye. You were going to cash 55% of your bets. 55 out of every 100. What a great winning percentage. If they were favored, you were going to cash 65 out of every 100 bets. So all you had to do is wait for a team coming off a bye that was favored. For a decade, you made money. That's no longer the case. Collective bargaining agreement changed everything, coupled with, of course, the market, NFL market, being efficient and correcting itself. So the fact that it's 2020 and the Lions went through a key number up to 7.5, I don't understand it. I don't know where the sharp money is coming from because I haven't seen any of the groups that are behind it. But then again, I don't have access to everyone. So I'm a little confused on the move, to be honest.
Come on, VR, you don't have access to every single back-end account. This is where I need you to be.
I wish. I wish.
All jokes aside, this one is a joke. Buffalo at the New York Jets. Buffalo opened a 10-point favorite, now up to 13.5 at some prominent offshores, 13 across the board here in Vegas. Marco D'Angelo, the Jets. You get stuck with this team. Again, I need some clarification.
How did I get stuck with having to preview? Oh, I'm the one that sets who does which game. Okay. I did the self-inflicted wound. I had to because I was on the Jets last week, so I wanted to talk about it. Yeah, okay, I was wrong. They are that bad. Yes, this line is justified, Kelly, from 10.5 to 13 because the numbers you're going through, other than the 11, we've seen 11 become a number that can hit more often now, but you're talking about the 12 in 12.5. Those are dead numbers. So from there to the 13 is not a big deal. I'll go ahead and say this is warranted. Buffalo's coming off a loss too, but it was against Kansas City. Look for them to take out their frustrations against the Jets. Will I get to the window and bet against the Jets? Can't say I'll do that, but what I can say I won't do is I will not be playing the Jets plus the points here. This is a justified move.
All right, VR, San Francisco at the Patriots. Patriots off that ugly loss to the Broncos where the Broncos won by kicking 6 field goals. They were a 5.5-point favorite, now down to 2 across the board in Vegas. Interesting enough, Pinnacle, it has Pats minus 1.5. Your thoughts?
Yeah, not surprised. That's all sharp money. And the public's going to be on San Francisco's side, I think, because they came through on Sunday Night Football. They were my 5% play. I thought it was a great spot for them. What I can tell you is that that group that picks off edges, they took San Francisco +3. So that coupled with, I think you'll get, even though it's New England, they've now lost 3 of their last 4. So I don't think they have that mystique where, bettors are afraid to fade the New England Patriots. And because of that, I think it's expected. I'm not sure where the value lies right now. San Fran +3 sounds like a good bet. But right now, I don't know. At 1.5, I'd probably pass.
Okay. Last but not least, we kind of already touched on this game. Tampa Bay at the Raiders. This one opened Tampa Bay -1, now -3. Marco, did the Bucs look that good against the Packers? Oh, yeah. Of course they did.
Yeah. Yeah, Kelly. That was next to the Steelers' performance over the Browns. That was the most dominating game, and it was an undefeated team that got dominated. And it was Aaron Rodgers, and it was the primetime, late game. And it wasn't the Sunday night game, but it was the featured game for Sunday in the late action. Oh, wait, there was another game late. Who was that? Miami and the Jet. Okay. Yeah. Viewership was split between the two games, I'm sure. But yeah, that was a big game for Tampa Bay. They made their statement and now the public saw it and they're reacting. The Raiders didn't play last week and they're coming off of a monumental win of their own. So, it's a little bit surprising that it moves that much, but we know people remember what they saw last, and they saw Green Bay get dominated by this Tampa Bay team. And I like to use the phrase Tampa Bay legitimized themselves as a Super Bowl contender. And just be careful, because after teams have their statement game and they become legitimized, sometimes they get a little fat and sassy the next week. But
I
the
hope
move,
you're right,
I can understand
Marco.
it.
I need a fat and sassy game from Tampa Bay. Everybody didn't understand how I was on Tampa Bay when I had under 9.5 wins. I'm still cheering for that season win total. Okay, it is now time to tease you guys just a little bit. Marco, what is your teaser for NFL Week 7?
Well, Kelly, we're going to call this teaser the old offensive-defensive teaser. And what we're going to look at is the first team that we're taking the Detroit Lions, a very good offensive team, going against a very bad defensive team. We know how bad the Atlanta Falcons are, and I just cannot see the Atlanta Falcons laying over a touchdown to anybody. And by using a teaser, what are we accomplishing? We're going through all the key numbers, 3, 4, 6, and 7, taking it up. And I just do not see the Atlanta defense, even if they win this game, getting separation from the Lions with their offense. So we'll take Detroit and tease them up to 8.5. Now, the second half of this teaser, we're going to go to the offensive side. And I'm looking at San Francisco and New England. I just do not see any way that this New England offense, the way it is constructed and relying so much on Cam Newton with his legs, more so than his arm, to get separation on the 49ers. So, again, we've got a small road dog. What are we doing? We're teasing through all of the key numbers and getting them over the touchdown against a team that, quite frankly, is offensively challenged. We saw what happened last week. Denver's inept. And, you alluded to the point. They won the game with 6 field goals. Aren't you the one that says kicking's for losers, Kelly?
Kicking is absolutely
Kicking
for
was
losers.
for
And
winners.
even Vic Fangio even knew that they should not have won that game kicking that many field goals. But that shows you how atrocious the offensive play scheme from the Patriots really was. Maybe Cam Newton didn't get the same COVID that the Tennessee Titans did. That surely rejuvenated that team, because Cam looked slow. He looked not ready. He was getting a lot of pressure. That Denver defense is still very solid without Von Miller, but it's still very perplexing to me. I really thought that they were going to win that game. I played in my survivor pool. I played them and the Dolphins because I said there's no way I'm putting both of my teams and my faith on the Dolphins. I was shocked that the Patriots lost that game.
Yeah, Kelly, but honestly, if you look at the Patriots, with the exception of the New England game, this is a team that struggled to score points in every game this year. That's why there's only one way to play this game for me, and that's get this over the touchdown and take the points with a rejuvenated 49er team. Could they suffer a letdown after the Rams game on Sunday night? You could surely make a case for that. But because of where they are in the standings, and they're still looking up at an undefeated Seattle team, and they're looking at, the Rams are still got some daylight over them, they can't afford to, come out and lay an egg. They got to continue to get themselves back in the race. So I have the 49ers.
I can see that. All right, VR, who is your teaser for NFL Week 7?
All right. First, let's tease a good number, and that's the New Orleans Saints. We talked about them. It went through the key 7, red flag right there, and they just got to win the game at home. Now, taking them down to 1.5, I think that makes some sense. Let's not forget, Saints, one of the few teams that are still top 10 offense, defense, and special teams, DVOA. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the Tennessee Titans. I like the Titans in that spot against the Steelers, and here's why. I think that line is perfect, meaning where the line sits right now is where it should be. Pittsburgh opened 1, now Tennessee's 1. I think power rating wise, these teams are right there. You could make one a half a point or 1 point favored over the other. I think there's really no home field advantage. So I think they priced this to where we know one team's going to win. So obviously, whether you cash a ticket with Team A or Team B, good thing. But what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's an edge there at -1 or +1. I don't think whether you take Team A or Team B, that is able to overcome that -1 or +1, that -110. And then you're just kind of hoping for good luck. But this is one of those reasons you use a teaser, because I do think it increases our probability of cashing ATS by the significant amount it needs to be profitable. That's 75%. So give me the Tennessee Titans now teased up. I think it's changed since I sent it out. When I send these out, I think Tuesday afternoon. Tennessee was plus, 2 at that time, or
they were
Steelers were still
yeah.
favored. Yeah, Steelers were still favored. So that's what I had sent out. Now, though, the teaser really doesn't give you that value at -1. You'd be doing it at 5. So that, it goes against everything I believe in. So that's where my problem is. I sent it in when they were 2. That was my favorite. Now I would say I would tease it with Detroit or Chargers, or I'm not even handicapping it. I'm just pulling out teams with numbers. But with the Tennessee side, I handicapped it. I thought not only does the teaser go through those key numbers of 3 and 7, but I also think it gives me line value. But now that that's gone, I really don't have anything to fill it in with. So I guess you could grade it at +5 and see what happens.
VR, can you explain that to some of our new viewers, why it's important to tease through 2 key numbers? So now I'm looking, it looks like the Titans are actually -1.5. And I did get your notes on Tuesday night. Obviously, we do film on Wednesdays, but explain why maybe using the Titans now isn't a profitable move.
And that's why we say we love to share the best information we can. Just always keep in mind that we're making our plays on Tuesday, and Monday Night Football just ended less than 12 hours ago. But here's the thing with the teaser. It's been proven. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I know there's always that argument. Oh, wait, in 2018, if you teased dogs and under when it was this total, they cashed at this percentage. That's great in 2018. But how about overall? Give me a sample of a statistically significant sample. And what does statistically significant tell us? That the only teaser that's plus EV are those that are teased through key numbers of 3 and 7. Otherwise, it doesn't improve your ATS margin by the necessary percentage for it to be plus EV. Because if you tease, you have to now cash 75% on both ends to break even. And if those 6 points don't help you do that, then the teaser's negative EV, even if it wins. And I talked about it last week in my coin flip rant. You could place great bets that lose, just like you could place great bad bets that win. But you don't want to get in the habit of placing bad bets that win, because we know what happens with bad bets. Eventually, the big sample size, the law of big numbers comes into effect, and you lose your bankroll. And those of us that it's happened to, we all know this, how the story ends when you place bad bets. None of us are new to this. None of us have not lost more than we could afford. None of us have, lost a bankroll or 2. We're not in this racket by accident. So again, if you're going to tease because it helps you cash that ATS margin up around that 75% range. Otherwise, don't do it. And proven the only time that happens is when you tease through 3 and 7. Again, now Tennessee could cover at +5, but that's still negative EV teaser, if that makes sense. That's why I'm going to leave it. I'll leave it with Tennessee +5 and the Saints -1.5. And that's me placing a bad bet. Even if it wins, I'm telling you it's a bad bet at that number, not at the number I sent it in at. I hope that registers.
Yeah, it totally does. I did just tell our producers that I do think we should change it to the Chargers and the Saints. But as you mentioned, you could also use either one of the 2 teams that Marco just listed, which is the Lions and the Niners. I'm already locked in on those 4. I did a little, what I call a round robin teaser, lots of little 2-team teasers. I have a guy that charges $120, so it works out perfect for me. Guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's Gianni's team game of the weekend. I think the deli might be back open. 3 days for just $9 more than 5% best bet. That's right. We are celebrating the return of the Big Ten and Mountain West. This is one of the biggest college football cards of the season. So why would you spend $40 for 5% play when you can have 3 days of all access for just $49? That includes NFL, college football, the World Series, UFC, and soccer. This coupon is good at both Sports Memo and wagertalk.com. All you have to do is go to your favorite handicappers page, click 3-day all access for $69, and use coupon code SM49 at SportsMemo or WT49 at WagerTalk, and you are set, getting 3 days of all access service, including any 5% best bets for just $49. Apologies, guys. We must limit this special to 2 handicappers at each site.
Get $25 in WagerBucks added to your account after your first purchase at wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk and SportsMemo family.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It is time for the Steam game of the week. But first, I got to go back to Marco because he has something he'd like to mention. And oh, by the way, he's got a foot long for you guys this week.
Wow. I've never heard that before. Okay. This is a spot here. And ironically, my sandwich game this week, the deli's open, guys. And it's not going to be real popular back in Pittsburgh this week, but the deli is open and we're going to be looking at the Tennessee Titans. Now, I want to just say one thing here. Last segment with Gianni in his teaser. This is the problem of, when we do a show midweek, things happen. Things happen overnight. Things happen early in the morning. And not to get, hit with the trolls who love to always Monday morning quarterback everything. I think what Ace really wanted to say is the profitable play in the Pittsburgh-Tennessee game was no matter who is the favorite, the small favorite, the value is teasing the dog to get it over the touchdown. And I can tell you in some of these games where lines have changed, and I am holding a Tennessee teaser ticket in my pocket when they were +2. I got them at +8. And if I wasn't so high on Tennessee, and I'll explain why in a moment, I have come back when a line is crossed and had another teaser with the other side. And if you're getting 8 both ways, that is a marvelous, marvelous way to have, because they're all independent bets. Every bet you make should not be, worried about what your other bet is. If that particular bet at that time is the right plus EV play, you make it. And if I'm holding a plus Tennessee teaser at +8 and I end up with a +8 Pittsburgh teaser, a totally different teaser, they're independent of one another. They're both smart wagers. So I don't want to speak for Gianni, but I think that's where he was trying to go. You want to elaborate?
Yeah, and before you give your sandwich game, thank you, Marco. And that's where I say, please, if you're going to disagree, because I'm never going to be 100%. So you should disagree with my best bet. You should disagree with my Steam play. Not every week, or you're going to go broke, but on occasion. And with that, and no, seriously. And now with the Raiders, that's what I need. With the Tennessee Steelers game, someone to come back at me and share something that I overlooked, that I missed. That's the kind of trolling or dialogue that I enjoy. And Marco said, wait, hey, you thought the line's where it should. So now that Pittsburgh's -1, Tennessee's -1, would you tease the Pittsburgh side up through that key number? I'm like, holy shit, you're 100% right. Everything I feel and think and say supports that, except I didn't think of it on the spot. So absolutely, man, thank you for that. I would use Pittsburgh +7 now, or 7.5, you get 1.5 on my teaser with the New Orleans Saints, not Tennessee +5, because Tennessee +5 is negative EV on a teaser, even if Tennessee covers the spread. So they're completely different bets, like Marco said. If you could get in Tennessee at a pick'em and you like it at that side, that's a different story. He's +8 over here, that's a completely different bet as well. So thank you, Marco, for bringing that to my attention. And I say, yeah, if possible, please change that so the viewers at least see what I consider a positive EV teaser, win or lose, and that's the Steelers with New Orleans.
All right, perfect. Thank you for clearing that up. You too. Marco, ready to give your reasoning for your sandwich game?
Kelly, this is the sandwich of all sandwiches. And I know you're going to first say, but Marco, their teams are both undefeated. This is a mammoth game in the AFC. It's for home field advantage and everything else. Yeah. Do you really think either one of these two teams are going to run the table to be talking about the home field advantage? Tennessee, with their defense, will have problems down the road. Pittsburgh's got some big games coming up. Oh, wait, big games coming up. What would be the biggest game on the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule this year? That would be the Baltimore Ravens. And when do they play the Baltimore Ravens? Yes, they play them next week. Who did the Steelers play last week, Kelly? Well, they played the Cleveland Browns, their second biggest rival, who, by the way, came in that game with a 4-1 record, and it was actually for first place because whoever won that game was going to be first place in the AFC North. Pittsburgh took care of business last week. And no matter what they do this week against Tennessee, win or lose, next week's game decides who is in first place. Whether Pittsburgh wins or loses this week, it depends who wins next week's game against Baltimore. If Baltimore beats Pittsburgh next week, whether Pittsburgh's still undefeated or not, they have first place because they'll own the tiebreaker over the Steelers. So this is a mammoth sandwich spot for the Steelers. Let's also look at something that nobody's talking about. The Steelers lost is one of the best defenses in the NFL. The Steelers right now in Tampa Bay are putting up impressive numbers. Pittsburgh's defense took a major hit last week. Devin Bush is out for the season. This is what is one of the key ingredients to the defense and why they are so hard to run the football against. And boy, is there ever a team that loves to run the football, it's the Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry. That gives them a big leg up in this one. And as far as motivation goes, yeah, they're both undefeated. But Pittsburgh's been there and done that. They're the team that is on the top of the pedestal with tradition. Tennessee is trying to establish themselves, and I'll use my favorite phrase. This is the Tennessee Titans legitimizer against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know how much I love my Steelers, and guys always say, oh, he's a homer. He just always goes with Pittsburgh. No, he doesn't. My money is all over the Tennessee Titans this week. And that is my sandwich game of the week. And Kelly, you mentioned it. Yes, it is a foot long. Not only is it a foot long, when I got to the counter, I told the guy behind the counter, give me double meat on this one. Because I got the Browns on one side. I got Baltimore on the other side. Load it up. Sandwich game of the week, Tennessee Titans.
I love it, Marco. Would you recommend at -1 or even -1.5 to just play them on the money line at this point in time?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to get it at a fair price. 1.5. I know your buddy says games never fall at 1. Mr. John Murray over at the Westgate. But you know what? They do once in a while fall on 1.
It's almost been every week. I think out of 6 weeks, 5 weeks, a game has landed 1. It's my greatest pleasure on Sunday evening getting to rub that in his face. VR, what is your Steam game of the week?
Yeah, coming off a Steam winner last week. And the reason I picked this side this time is because this is a legit Steam play. Like we talked on Monday Night Football with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I knew with certainty when it came out at 3.5, the guys that bet it, because it came from multiple groups, was sharp money. And they bet the money line as well. Now that turned out well for them. I didn't agree with it, but it turned out well for them. And for this segment, I want to give you what is legit Steam, not my move. And I actually used this and released it to subscribers. Here's why. Immediately when the lines come out, groups bet. Even the guys that take big positions, they'll pick off some numbers. And the numbers that always get picked off are around 3 and 7. No surprise. So this week, immediately when lines went up, what are the teams that got attention? Green Bay, Arizona, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Detroit. No surprise. They're all around 3. They all got sharp money. Now, some of them are legit moves. Some of them are getting out ahead of the market. Some of them are set up so they could come back and take Team B at a better number on Saturday night or Sunday morning. But what I did see with the Green Bay Packers and why I chose them is that both my guys, the strongest ones, came in on it. Both have Green Bay at -3. But more importantly, they were willing to lay -120 on a couple spots. You're not going to set up games by laying extra juice. If you're willing to lay that extra big instead of getting it at 3.5 and then pushing it up, that's a different story. I've done this long enough to be able to pick off what's legit, what's not legit. Now, I can't tell you it's going to win, but I can tell you this is what true steam is. Green Bay Packers -3, -120, 125. Now it's 3.5. A little value's been extracted, but I like Green Bay. And real quickly, the handicap, we know what Houston is. Every time they stepped up this year, they lost. They stepped up against Baltimore, they got crushed. Kansas City got crushed. Pittsburgh got crushed. Tennessee, overtime loss. The only win is against Jacksonville where they were touchdown favorites. I think Green Bay bounces back off that Tampa Bay loss. I usually don't bet teams that are going to get 8 out of 10 bets written on them. And we know the book's going to need the other side. But with so much sharp money on it, I couldn't avoid it. And I just wanted to share that information.
All right. It is now time for my favorite guy, Mr. Ralph Michaels, with some TNA. Ralph, your Twitter has been littered with data this week regarding the NFL. I am so excited to hear what you've got for us. You guys are not following Ralph at CalSportsLV on Twitter. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow. He's so close to 20,000 followers. I'm so proud of this guy. Just killing the social media game.
Well, you know what? The clue is just shut up, don't give your opinion, and just give out sports betting information. People will follow you. And that's really it. You know what? My opinion doesn't mean shit to anyone. I don't give it out. But my goal on Twitter, if I can help you win one more bet than you would have bet, I'm a happy guy. There's plenty of money in those sports books for us all to win. And you know what, Cal? I'm going to start off with two systems that go against each other, but I want people to understand the situation and think about it. If you and I went out and asked 20 people in a bar, if you have to go on the road and then you have to go on the road against Denver the next week, how many are people who are going to say, that's got to be one of the strongest angles out there, the mile-high altitude, go into Denver off back-to-back road games, that has to be a horrific angle. Well, Kansas City's doing that this week. I've heard numerous people say it. If I did a shot every time I heard it this week, I'd be in trouble. But how about this? Since 2006, when teams are on the road and then the next week they go to Denver, they have covered 63.6% of the time. So do not believe the BS you hear. Oh, those road trips to Denver's are horrific. Oh, that altitude's horrible. Oh, those back-to-back road games, you can't win them. Since 2006, 64% of the time, teams have covered when playing a second straight road game at Denver. Now, that would lean towards Kansas City or not be a negative, but I do want to mention this stat, which is the exact opposite. But again, it gets you thinking about the situations. If you play on a Monday night on the road and then you play another road game, doesn't matter where it is, Denver or wherever, those teams are just 5-11 since 2012, 31% of the time. The NFL normally doesn't screw teams by making them play Monday night on the road and then the following road game. KC's the only time that happens this year. So I'm not saying you can't find back-to-back road spots, but don't fall into the trap that you hear everyone talking about saying playing Denver on a second straight road game has been horrific. A couple things that don't have that much meaning, I just wanted to mention them. Since 1989, this is only the 7th time that teams have had 6 or more wins and have been undefeated. Pittsburgh obviously playing Tennessee. The home team has gone 3-2-1. The home dog has gone 2-1 in those games. Couple team angles I want to bring up. This is one of those team angles that I actually do play. It's a rarity. But when the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the road and they're either a favorite or a dog up to 5, so it means Pittsburgh's the better team or basically they're in the same caliber, 6 overs, Kelly, 34 unders, 85% to the under anytime Pittsburgh simply goes on the road and is a favorite or a dog up to 5. Mike Tomlin does not run up the score. He gets conservative with a lead on the road. It's just been a tremendous road system that I've used for a long time. We've got some big lines with the Jets as bad as they are, with Jacksonville as bad as they are. I want to remind our viewers, the last 19 times we've had a double-digit away favorite in the NFL. Those away favorites, like Buffalo this week, have gone 16, 2, and 1 against the spread, 89%. And how about this one? Division away favorites of 8 or more. That's going to apply to Buffalo against the Jets and KC against Denver. When you have a division away favorite of 8 or more, they've gone 7 overs, 30 unders, and 1 push, so 82% to the under. And again, it makes sense. A division foe, you know you're going to have to likely play again. You get the lead, you get conservative, you're not worrying about oppressing them. 7 overs, 30 unders. 2 more systems. A team that loses as a favorite against a team that wins as a dog. And now the team that lost as a favorite is a single-digit home favorite. It applies to New England this week and the Rams. So both New England and the Rams lost as a favorite. Both San Francisco and the Bears won as a dog. If those teams are a single-digit home favorite this week, since 2011, the teams like New England and the Rams have gone 4 and 24 against the spread, cashing only 14.3% of the time. And last one I want to mention, teams that had a 14-plus point lead in the first quarter and then lost. Those teams have gone 59% since 1998. I'm talking 30 years. I thought it'd be a negative record. That's the Cincinnati Bengals this week. They had a big lead. They had a 14-0 lead against Indy. They came back. They lost that game. So teams that had a 14-plus point lead after the first quarter and lost the game have actually covered almost 60% of the time over the last 30 years.
Great stuff from my main man, Ralph Michaels. Ralph, the Jets just in the season. That is a terrifying double-digit record against that team. I don't think I could bet the Bills. Look, this is an interesting year. I appreciate you coming in hard with some great systems and some great stats.
Thanks, Cal.
Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at wagertalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at wagertalk and sportsmemo.com. Thank you again to Ralph Michaels for all of those incredible trends and angles. Make sure you guys are following him at CalSportsLV on Twitter. And make sure you're following this guy too, at Marco in Vegas. He's not that creative. And Greek_gambler. Our boy Yanni. All right, guys, we're ready for the barking dog segment for NFL Week 7. Mark, I'm going to go to you first. Who is your barking dog for this week?
Okay, Kelly, I have 2 things to say first to you. I haven't said it all season. It's the first time. You took a shot at my Twitter handle. What's your Twitter handle?
It's Kelly in Vegas, but this is what people don't realize, Marco. Just because you've been on Twitter longer than I have doesn't mean that was your original Twitter name. And that's what I need you to prove. I started Twitter with at Kelly in Vegas. What did you start Twitter with?
Marco in Vegas. Yes, I did. Unfortunately.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I won't say because it was at a former place. But yes, I started it before you, Kelly. And the second thing, I want to thank you for last week. You brought the special cameo appearance of Coco for the Barking Dogs. Well, now I have 2 dogs in my household that are pissed off at me. Like, why don't we get airtime? And I said, well, I'm sorry, you're just not as cute as Coco. So thanks for that. But for my barking dog, speaking of dogs that aren't really cute, we're going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, compared to the New York Jets, wow, this is a champion dog. Let me tell you that, taking Jacksonville. But this play, honestly, Kelly, for me, is more against the Chargers than it is with taking the Jaguars. And here's my thought process. Last week, we were on Chicago against Carolina. And one of the things I pointed out is Carolina was playing good football this year. They had been a dog in all of those games. They were competitive in the games, and they sprung a couple wins. But then all of a sudden, they become a favorite. That's uncharted territory for that young team. Well, you've got the same thing this week with the Chargers. The Chargers have been playing lights out. Every one of their games have been decided by 7 points or less. And they've been a dog in every game but one. So obviously, backers to the Chargers have been happy this year. But the one time they were a favorite, they laid an egg. And I think they're going to lay an egg again here. Justin Herbert has been phenomenal at times, but he is still a rookie, and he's going to make rookie mistakes. And I just can't lay over a touchdown with a team that hasn't shown me the ability to learn how to win consistently and do it laying a point spread. I'm going to take Jacksonville here. I'm going to look for the closeness of all the Charger games to be there. And then the last factor, and I know it's something that you're going to agree with, Kelly, Anthony Lynn's on the sideline. Do you really expect total separation in any game that he is the coach? He's going to kick a field goal for me somewhere, where it'll keep it, under that touchdown. I'll go ahead and take the Jacksonville Jaguars to keep this one close. Let's call it a field goal. Either way, take the points in the Jags.
All right, VR. Your dog this week is interesting because I got a text from a buddy last night and he said, Kelly, don't you love X underdog? And I said, God, I think they're going to be the square dog of the week. I'm looking at it, though, and they're not the square dog of the week. So tell me about the Arizona Cardinals and why you like this team.
Yeah, some of the games I picked this week, Kelly, here's what I got to say. I wish people used my information the way I do use these groups' information. And that's, I don't piggyback every play. Now, I get accounts and I take a percentage of the accounts of the ones I trust. So I have everything they have for a percentage. But what I mean is, I'll take all this college plays that they bet. I know these guys are plus EV. I know they win long term. So now, rather than me having to handicap the whole schedule, I just have to handicap these 15 plays, these positions, and see which of these long-term winning positions do I agree with. And when I disagree, I pass. When I agree, I piggyback and share it. Because you shouldn't agree with everything. But here's one where multiple groups are on, and usually I wouldn't bet a team that's coming off Monday Night Football looking as hot as Arizona did. But I touched on it when them going into Dallas, that this is a team that's still young enough to not know they're not supposed to win those games, meaning they don't have the letdown. They're out there excited playing football and not even realizing there's certain situations they probably shouldn't be playing their optimum, and yet they've been able to do that. And now you're giving this team 3.5 points at home against a big name like Seattle, who is always going to get betting action at the window. They haven't lost a game this year. They covered 4 out of 5. So you can't give Seattle away cheaply. So for me, I think there's even line value on Arizona, let alone that the situation sets up for them. Listen, they've played Seattle tough. If you look over the last 5 years, they play each other twice a year. I think every single year they won, except 2018, they won one of those games. And over the last 5 years, Arizona has not been a good football team. Rest assured, they were underdogs or significant underdogs in every single one of those games. Yet they managed to beat Seattle 5 of the last 10 times. Giving me 3.5 points with a much improved Arizona team? Why not? I'll use them as my barking dog. I think they're live. Sounds square. Probably is square. May still cash.
I really don't think it's square. The more I start to look at it, I really don't think it's square. I think that the square play is actually the Seattle Seahawks, because this team has covered all but one game. I think people didn't realize how bad their defense really got exposed by a just mediocre Vikings team with a backup running back. all things aside, it is now time for you guys' favorite part of the show. It is time for our best bets. All right, guys, I'm going to go first. My best bet is the Carolina Panthers plus 7.5. And if you guys watched at the beginning of the show, VR said this move was huge from the 6.5 through the 7 to 7.5. I have mentioned several times on the show, I love those divisional road dogs. I believe they went 2-1 with the exception of the Browns last week. Let's hope I've got the right one this week. Look, the Panthers were left for dead after Christian McCaffrey got hurt, and they've won 3 games outright as an underdog. I know they looked kind of meh, for lack of better words, last week against the Chicago Bears, but all of a sudden, the Saints deserve to be 7.5-point home favorites here. I think I'm missing something. This Saints defense has showed so many moments of weakness. Drew Brees is not the same guy who he has been in years past. I think Matt Rule's done a really good job with this Panthers team. And as I mentioned, I'm getting 7 and a hook in a divisional game. I like the Panthers here. I don't think I'm going to sprinkle any on the money line. I may change my mind come Sunday, but as of right now, I'm getting over the touchdown here. I think the Panthers come to play. Marco, you are up next. Who is your best bet for this week?
Well, Kelly, I didn't know till a little bit before we went on the show, but me and my buddy, we're going to be going head to head. Doesn't happen often, but I am on the Cleveland Browns. And for me, I feel the knee-jerk reaction for most people looking at this game is they're going to want to take Cincinnati in the points. And after last week, people saw after the Steelers pounded the Browns in a blowout, 38-7, the narrative was, well, it's the same old Browns. Well, you know what? It was the same old Browns at Heinz Field. This is a team that now has lost 17 straight games in Pittsburgh. Okay, it gets into their head. And what happens? And you know what? There's a guy that was on Twitter that gave our man Ralph a lot of flack about what does a stat from 17 years ago mean when these guys were still in grade school, they weren't even on these teams. Well, what it does mean is it's history. And when something goes wrong, like it did for the Browns last week with that pick 6, a bad team that has a bad history, not a bad team, but a team that has a bad history at a certain place, when one thing goes wrong, it can just snowball out of control. And that's what happened for the Browns last week. They fell behind by a couple scores. They pushed the panic button. They abandoned the running game, and they started throwing on all the downs. Well, that's not what you do against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in that pass rush that's going to put pressure on Baker, and they just got out of the game, and it looked worse than they were. What I'm looking at is a Cleveland team that they only ran the football 22 times last week. You go back and look at their other games this year, outside of the first game of the season, they're averaging running the football 36 times a game. You look at Cleveland, they're going to face a Bengals team. This Bengals team is 29th against stopping the run. They're allowing 5.1 yards per carry. We all know that when you run the football successfully, you are going to open up your passing game and everything will click. The second point that I'm going to bring out about this game is everybody is going to go and look to the first meeting of the season when these two played. And yes, Cleveland only won by 5, laying 6. But that game was the second week of the season, and it was on a Thursday night. Cleveland was coming off getting pounded by Baltimore just 3 days earlier, and they were facing a quarterback they had never seen before, and they only had one game of film to evaluate what he was going to do in the NFL. And let me also point out that final score was misleading in the fact they had more than 170 yards more than the Bengals, and the Bengals had a long drive at the end of the game that closed that 100 gap by putting in a meaningless touchdown with 43 seconds left in the game to get it to that final 5-point number. Oh, why do I remember all those details of that game? Yes, you know why. Because I had the Browns -6, and lived that agony of watching them go down the field and prevent defense and get that touchdown. It was like the longest drive I've ever seen in a hurry-up, meaningless drive, but they methodically went down the field and punched it in. This is also, I'm going to point out, one of my favorite angles in the NFL. In second meetings, when a team is on the road and is a favorite in the second meeting and they won the first meeting but failed to cover the spread, I like to take that team in the second meeting. And I reached out to my buddy, Mr. Ralph Michaels, this morning to run some numbers to back that up. Kelly, since 2016, this has happened 13 times. 10-3 to the spread for the road team in there. And just to tell you another stat of this, since 1989, when the road team is the favorite and they won but didn't cover the first meeting, we're going back to 1989. That team has been a 72% straight up winner in the next game. But you're saying, but Marco, you're laying 3. Yes, we're laying 3. And I'm going to point out that there's 3s out there and there's 3.5s out there. It's teetering back and forth. If you take the 3, you're laying a little extra juice. If you take the 3, if you lay 3.5, you get reduced juice. But the fact that I can get this game at 3, Kelly, I'm just, you're almost in a situation where you're just asking to win the game. And we all know that in the NFL, the straight up winner is also the point spread winner 83.2% of the time. And we're going back to 1989. That is a sample size of 7,942 NFL games that you pick the winner, you've covered the spread 83.2% of the time. So I got a team that's in a situation that wins 73% of the time straight up. Yes, thanks, Ralph, for the bonus nuggets there. Supports my Cleveland play even more. I'm on the Brownies to bounce back this week.
All right, VR, you and I went head-to-head. I think it was week 3 with the Bills and the Raiders, and my bet went down in flames. So best of luck to Marco. VR, why do you like the flip side at 3.5?
It's funny, this is the great part about a betting market, that you can see things completely differently, and you could even look at the same scenario and see it differently. And we're each going to choose the narrative that supports the side we like. And that's what we're supposed to do. The way I saw that first meeting is actually why I like Cincinnati, in this spot. That game was never close except for the final score. Cleveland was in control from start to finish. They were up 14-3 heading into, a minute or a couple minutes into the second quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, they were up, 35-23. They were up 2 touchdowns. Except for a junk touchdown by Cincinnati, Cleveland comfortably had that win at home. But this is one of those matchups where I do think home field matters a little bit, even though it's not really an edge. These two teams play every single year. We have some history there. Cincinnati's done extremely well against the Cleveland Browns. But more importantly for this year in particular, we're talking about Joe Burrow, who was in his second game, was forced to drop back and throw the ball 61 times against Cincinnati. This is a much different team 4 weeks later than what Cleveland saw a couple weeks ago. And when you look at Cleveland, they're coming off a big game against Pittsburgh where they got annihilated. Now you got to get back up and play in Cincinnati, who for Cincinnati, this is a big game. I like what I've seen from Cincinnati. Other than getting blown out from Baltimore, they're exactly where they should be. Competitive, playing 60 minutes of football, not good enough to win in the end. And that's what they did. They did it in week 1 against the Chargers. They did it against Cleveland in week 2. The only game they got blown out in was against Buffalo, and they should have got blown out in that game. Otherwise, this team's been in there. I get it. If you win the game, you should cover the 3.5. 3, not necessarily. And that's where I thought the 3.5 I was minus 110 when I gave it out and bet it. I thought it was a good bet, getting that right side of the 3. Again, I think it's a coin flip kind of game, and I think the points are a gift. I took Cincinnati, man. I released them as a premium play. I think it was a 4% play if I'm right. So I back that opinion with money, win or lose. At least you guys know that much, that I'll go down with it if it loses.
All right, great stuff from all of us. When we return, we are going to go over our college best bets.
Marco continued his red-hot run for his clients as he went 6-3 last Saturday and Sunday, highlighted by his 5% dominator play on Saturday, with the Tampa Bay Rays a 4-2 winner. He followed up Saturday's big 5% winner with another on Sunday as his 5% NFL game of the month on Tampa Bay +1 won 38-10. Going back to last season, Marco is 53-36 with his last 89 plays in college and pro football. This Sunday, Marco is releasing a 5% NFL high roller play. 5% plays sell for $40 by themselves, but with this special package, you'll get all of Sunday's NFL plays for just $39, and this includes the big 5% high roller play.
Welcome back to Bet On It. I know that you guys are sad. We're not doing a college football edition of Bet On It this year, but we still want to bring you guys our favorite bets for college football. And I'm going to start off with mine. I know the Big Ten, it's their first week back. I know that they've got to finally get some practices under their belt. No games from either one of these teams. But I'm going to take the Purdue Boilermakers in a little bit of a reverse line movement situation here. This one opened Iowa -4, now down to 3. I think Purdue wins this game at home. I know head coach Bull will not be there. Neither was Nick Saban last week, supposedly because he had a positive COVID test. But I like this Purdue team. They are one of the most experienced teams in college football. They returned 17 starters. I think that Purdue gets revenge on this Iowa team from their loss, I believe it's 26-20 last season, and gets the W at home. Don't forget to sprinkle a little bit on that money line. All right, Marco, I'm going to go to you next. Who is your best bet for this week in college football?
Well, Kelly, I'm going to probably not a popular pick with a lot of people if they've been backing Auburn recently because they have been torching money left and right. But this is the spot for Auburn. Now they're out of the limelight. They were a team that was ranked and getting some ink, but they haven't lived up to it. Excuse me. Bo Nix, he's not been good. Let's face it. But he is facing a defense this week, Kelly, that if he doesn't put up numbers against this defense, then he's probably going to be sitting on the bench and maybe be time to make a change. But I look at this one, and you look at the Mississippi defense, they're not good in either category. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. So Auburn's going to have the entire playbook open. And what they should be doing is running the football and establishing the ground game and setting up their passing game for Bo Nix with stuff off of play action. Mississippi can't stop anybody. In 4 games, they have allowed 188 points. That's an average of 47 points per game. Now, Auburn, they've played 2 of their last 3 opponents. They've played Alabama and Georgia. That's going to get, not Alabama and Georgia. They played Georgia for one of them, and I forget who the other game was, but much better defenses than what you see here from Mississippi. We're going to look at, a lot of people are going to point to the fact that Mississippi put up 48 points against Alabama 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's nice to point out. But let me also point out Alabama had Georgia on deck the next week. That was a look-ahead spot for Alabama. It was a showdown game early in the season, number 2 versus number 3. Everybody coming into this year, the 2 teams that at the cream of the crop of the SEC was going to be that Alabama-Georgia matchup. LSU was going to take a big step backwards, losing Joe Burrow and coming off the national championship year and all of that. So, yes, they got caught looking ahead, and Mississippi got some points against them. But let's face the fact, Alabama, even though they shut down Georgia in the second half, if you've watched Alabama at all this year, their defense is not what it's been in the past for Nick Saban. So I'm not putting a big, worried as much about Mississippi there. What I am worried about is how's Mississippi going to stop anybody here. And with this line coming down the way it is, we're getting a cheap number, in my opinion, on Auburn. They still have the better athletes. Lane Kiffin, he only knows one way to go. He puts his foot on the gas and he doesn't let up. And all that does is put your defense right back out on the field again. When they're going to have to face this rushing attack, they're going to wear out. Auburn, my best bet. We're going ahead. I've got them winning big, Kelly. I'm calling it 41-28. Lay the 3 with Auburn.
Oh, that's against my best bet from South Carolina last week. And I mentioned that I had my concerns about Bo Nix, but this is an excellent buy low situation on the Tigers. I like it. Marco, VR, give us your best bet for this week in college football.
All right. I released this one to subscribers, 4% play. We bet it. Both groups bet it at Houston minus 12.5. I released it at minus 13.5 because I know they were going to get respect immediately. Now it's up to 14. There's still some 13.5s. Just don't lay more than 14 if you're going to piggyback it and you agree with me. I love positions like this. The Houston side, here's what sticks out, number one. The reason they're not a top 25 team is because of their record. They've only played 2 games and they're 1-1. There's no reason a team like Coastal Carolina is a top 25 team in college football. They're top 25 because they're 4-0. Houston would be favored over Coastal Carolina. So I love a team that's undervalued in the whole scheme of college football right now. And then we have 2 teams that have an opponent they both played. So we have a comparable game we could look at. Navy played BYU in week 1. Navy was at home. They were getting 1 point. They got blown out 55-3. Now, Houston played BYU last week, also at home. They were getting 3. Only what? They were getting more. They were getting more points than Navy was. According to the bet, that line, it looks like, Navy's the better team, right? They also, final score, looks like they got blown away by BYU, losing by 17 points. Not so fast. Houston had the lead in the 4th quarter of that game. They were on their way to win that game before the wheels fell off. That's the kind of team I want to bet. A team that's so much better than that last game reflects, at least the final score, is so much better than they are right now, meaning when the season's over, unless injuries or something bad happens, this is a top 25 team, talent-wise, power rating-wise, but they're on no one's radar because they're 1-1. And again, the only team they beat is Tulane. But again, they haven't played anyone yet. They're so much better than this Navy team. It's nothing they haven't seen before, playing them pretty much yearly. I love Houston in this spot to come back after that BYU loss and just put it on somebody. And I think Navy's prime to get blown out by a team like Houston. It'll look closer to that BYU type of game because that's the style. I like Houston in this spot. I'm comfortable laying 2 touchdowns on the road.
Wow, I like it as well, VR. Okay, guys, time for our last commercial break. When we return, we're going to recap all of this week's plays.
Have you checked out Wager Talk today? It's Sports Center for gamblers. Watch Teddy Covers and the Prez along with expert guests, a bookmaker, and Ralph Michaels as they break down the games for that day. The show airs Monday through Friday from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show will give you betting insights for all the key games that day and advanced looks at key weekend games in every major sport. Wager Talk today will tell you how to bet the games, where the money is going, and who the wise guys are playing. Teddy and the Prez are a must-watch as their chemistry or lack of is entertaining as hell. So if you want to laugh, have fun, and make money, check out Wager Talk today, weekdays from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, now it is time for your Week 7 recap. Both guys leaning towards the dog. That is the New York Giants on Thursday night. I'm in agreement there. We know that I love those divisional road dogs, especially in standalone games. Sunday night, Marco says, look, man, the Raiders in a situational spot here with a fat and sassy Bucs team. I'm in agreement. I'm really in agreement with VR taking the under. We're going to see lots of running in that one. As far as the 2-team teaser goes, we've got Marco with the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers, and VR with the New Orleans Saints. And he did give us Tennessee yesterday, but now that's went through 0. So he said, take the Pittsburgh Steelers in what appears to be a touchdown type game. As far as the scene play of the week, that is the Green Bay Packers -3.5. The deli's back open, and Marco has a sandwich game for this week, and that is the Tennessee Titans. When he gave it to me, it was +2. Now it's Tennessee -1.5. So pay attention there. As far as the barking dogs go, Marco is on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and VR is on the Arizona Cardinals. Best bet time, we know that I'm on the Panthers, getting 7.5 in a divisional game. Once again, VR is on Cincinnati +3.5, and he and Marco are head-to-head. Marco is on Cleveland -3, guys. No matter which side you like in that game, make sure you shop around. You should not be laying 3.5, and you should not be taking 3. As far as college football best bets go, I'm on the Purdue Boilermakers +3. VR is on Houston -14, and what he said is a blowout type game. And Marco and I are also aligned in Auburn -3. Thank you to my two favorite guys, Marco and VR. We're excited to have a profitable NFL Week 7 and whichever the hell week in college it is. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next week, let's bet on it.